What do you look for before you decide to make an investment?
So first thing is don't rush into a deal.
Hmm.
So you get to know the founder or founders
Hmm.
because we meet people when they have two founders in a slide deck,
Right,
right? The
right.
product is not there. They have great ideas. So we work with them in the early days. So our whole process at that time really is to get to know them, see how they act, see if they listen, see if they actually come back when make their commitments. So
Hmm.
it's a process we put them through.
Welcome to another episode of The Brand Called You, a podcast and podcast show that brings you leadership lessons, knowledge, experience, and wisdom from hundreds of successful individuals from around the world. If you're new to our channel, please consider subscribing to it and hit the bell icon so that you never miss an update. I am your host, Ashutosh Garg, and today I'm privileged to welcome a very, very accomplished investor from California, MR Rangaswamy. MR, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Ashutosh. Great to be with you.
Thank you. MR is the co-founder of the Sandhill Group, which is an angel investment firm. He is the founder of Indiaspora, founder of the Corporate Economic Forum. He has been in the Forbes Midas list of investors. He's an entrepreneur, investor, corporate eco-strategy expert, community builder, and philanthropist. What an amazing journey you've had, MR. So, MR, let's talk about the Sandhill Group. You were amongst the early angel investing firms in the US. What led you to start this?
It was kind of an accidental thing that happened. I was in the tech industry. I was part of a management team that had taken the company public. It was going great,
Mhm.
but I wanted to also have a family, and it was not possible with the 250,000 miles a year of travel to really do what was needed in my personal life.
Mhm.
So I quit my job at that time without any worry about the future or even planning about the future. And then, I had to decide what to do,
Yeah.
right? And so, since I was in the tech industry, I met with a few friends, and they said, let's look at some startups. So it was one of these accidental ways that I got in because,
Mhm.
my wife was expecting, we were going to have a baby, and so it was a different lifestyle. That's kind of how I got in, but it was completely by accident. And the other thing I have to tell you, the first investment I did
Mhm.
in 1996, okay, 25 years ago, that company is still in my portfolio
Wow.
and still not exited. So that's an aberration, I guess.
Mhm.
And that's the risk of being an angel investor, right?
Amazing. Amazing.
And when I'd done this, there was no category called angel investing.
Correct.
So people are like, "What do you do?" "Oh, I'm an angel investor." And
Mhm.
they'd go, "What the heck is that? Are you like religious? Are you an incarnation? What are you?"
Right.
Right?
Right.
Till the Wall Street Journal got a hold of me once.
Uh-huh.
They'd heard about me, and the editor calls me up and finds out what I do, and he goes, "I'm going to send a reporter. I'm going to send a reporter to cover you for a couple of days. Are you game?" And
Wow.
so I talked to my wife and decided it was okay. So when that happened, I had this Wall Street Journal reporter in my car, at my
Mhm.
house, in the restaurant, doing everything that she was trying to do to cover me. And then she calls me back and says, "Hey, this is a great story for the technology section." Then a
Mhm.
week later, she calls and says, "My editors are so excited, they're going to put you on the front page." So
Wow.
that was my that was my 15 minutes of fame as an angel investor when they created this category.
Incredible. I mean, imagine talking to the person who created angel investment. Amazing. I'm really privileged for that. But, tell me, in your early few years, if I can say, any interesting anecdotes about ones that got away?
Well, I'll tell you some more the funny story. So
Okay.
after this article, I get over 1,000 calls the next week. Right, everybody's trying to call me, and people are either wanting to give me money or take my money. Right, either investors are saying, "I'll give you $1 million, go invest for me,"
Mhm.
or, "Hey, I need $1 million for my company." So I
Mhm.
had some really crazy people pitch me plans, and this was before Zoom and all these things. Okay,
Correct.
so it's on the phone. So one guy says, "I've got this great resort, adult resort I'm developing in Florida. I got to talk to you." So I took the call. So I go, so what's your unique selling proposition, USP, right? He goes, this is a nudist colony.
Amazing.
So imagine what was going through my mind. The guy standing naked in the swimming pool pitching to me, right? I didn't fund that deal. So I've had tremendous kind of crazy deals as a
I was going
result
to
of
ask you, did you go and do a test case there yourself? Very interesting.
Another guy was pitching a three-dimensional television set. So, I mean, I've seen all kinds of deals, right? I've got a long list of ones that got away, though. I won't mention. One of them is Salesforce. I'll mention one deal, Salesforce.com. Mark Benioff was a colleague of mine at Oracle. And so he called me once and said, hey, I'm starting this company. Come take a look. Mm-hmm. I passed on it because I was too busy doing other deals. Mm-hmm. I never gave him the respect he deserved. And now he makes me look stupid.
Very, very interesting. Well, I'm sure there must have been amazing wins also. But tell me, from, the potential investor in Florida to a 3D television television, what do you look for before you decide to make an investment?
So first thing is don't rush into a deal. Mm-hmm. So you get to know the founder or founders, mm-hmm. because we meet people when they have two founders in a slide deck, right? Product is not there. They have great ideas. So we work with them in the early days. So our whole process at that time really is to get to know them, see how they act, see if they listen, see if they actually come back when make their commitments. Mm-hmm. So it's a process we put them through. Right. And in my mind on angel deals, there is no pattern to mm-hmm. investing. That's what I found. Every angel investor I've talked to looks at all their deals and says, can I find a pattern? Can I find how I did the good deals and how not to do the bad deals? There is. The secret is there's no pattern. The way I look at deals is I judge the founders and then figure out that they can pivot and navigate as every company, every startup mm-hmm. does. Mm-hmm. So really, I bet on the founders more than anything else. All the rest is nice. Total addressable market and mm-hmm. blah, blah, blah. And all that stuff is great. But if you don't have the A team, it doesn't matter.
Very well said. Very well. And you did mention that your first investment is still going strong after 25 years. But what is the average duration an angel investor would put money in for?
Yeah, so there are two cycles, right? So I started before the dot-com bubble. Mm-hmm. So this is between 96 and 2000. Correct. Those days, the exits were fast and furious. Mm-hmm. You would get out of a deal in a year, 2 years, 3 years, right? The new cycle now that we're in, you got to be in a deal for 7 to 10 years. Okay. So you're playing the long game. There are no quick exits anymore. I just had an exit recently. I was in the company for 9 years. But it was a 20x return, but it took 9 years. It wasn't 1 or 2 years. It was a great exit. So I think now the average wait time is 7 to 10 years to build value in a company. That's one metric. The other metric is you will lose at least half your deals. Half your portfolio is going to be losses. Mm-hmm. You write them off. Chapter 11, done. Okay. So you got to be prepared for the heavy losses you incur, much like a gambler would.
Okay. But I'm assuming that the other half will more than make up for.
That's, future performance is not guaranteed by past returns. You still got to have that little tagline. But yeah, in general, for me, I've made more than I put in. So far, so good.
Very well said. Very well. So my next few questions, MR, are going to be for startup entrepreneurs, because a very large number of people will hear your words of wisdom. From an investor perspective, do you like a solo founder or do you like co-founders?
You know what? That's a really good question. I get asked that all the time. And I look back at my deals. I've done several successful deals with solo founders. I've done several successful deals with 2 or 3 founders. Mm-hmm. So I don't pay as much attention to that. Some investors do, but I don't. But I would just tell the founder, if it's a solo company, have someone else to talk to. It's always good to bounce your ideas off within the company. And a co-founder always makes a lot of sense.
Very well said. And based on so many people you must have put money in, and so many people you would have evaluated, you did mention that you look for a good team. What are some of the basic qualities that you look for in a startup founder?
Yeah. So again, I meet two founders a week.
Mm-hmm.
I've done this for 25 years. So you can do the math, right? I've probably met 4,000 people one-on-one like you and I are doing now, right? For at least an hour,
Yeah.
coffee, breakfast, dinner, all that kind of stuff, right? So I think the qualities I look for is, first of all, I'd like them to be a little cocky.
Mm-hmm.
It's good. It's a good thing. It's not arrogant, but cocky.
Mm-hmm.
I like that. I like spunk. I like that kind of stuff.
Okay.
The second thing is listening skills. You can be cocky. I'd like you to listen,
Mm-hmm.
right? And the third thing is making your commitments. If you did listen and you say you're going to do something,
Mm-hmm.
the next time you and I meet, I'm going to ask you, did you do that something?
Mm-hmm.
So don't say yes just to be nice. If you
Mm-hmm.
said yes, act on it and come back and prove to me you've done it.
Mm-hmm.
So I look for that kind of stuff, right? I also look for people who know when to pivot. Again, it's hard.
Mm-hmm.
You stay in a product fit for 3 months and you give up and then move on?
Mm-hmm.
Is it 6 months? But each company is different. But you want the founder not so wedded to the product that they go crashing and burning. But you also don't want them so easy to get out of something that they don't prove it to themselves.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a fine line between, when you pivot, when you give up, to when you keep going. These are all lessons that I wish there was, practical list that says, stay in a product for 3 months. If there's no fit, move to plan B. Right? It doesn't quite work that way. But really, if you can listen, you're cocky, you stay the course. And I also look for founders who've given up their jobs.
Okay.
I sometimes founders will come to me and say, I'm working at Oracle. I've got this plan. As soon as I get funding, I'm going to go in. I say, quit your job, then come back to me.
Mm. Yeah. Put more skin in the game.
Yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely.
So again, now based on the thousands of people you've spoken to, based on your experience, what are the 3 top reasons startups fail?
Yeah, I think the number one reason is pretty simple.
Okay.
Most startups fail because they run out of money.
Okay.
Okay, they just plain run out of cash, right?
Yeah.
But I think a lot of times startups fail because of the product market fit. They think going in, this is going to be perfect. They talk to maybe 3 customers. They think we got a fit. Okay. Then when they go to 100 customers, they go, we don't have a fit.
Yeah.
So I think product market fit is a big deal. The other one is just delivery. People sometimes maybe take too much time to do the product. And so that's why, perfect is the enemy of the good, that kind of stuff. I think maybe, there has to be that give and take, and the perfect product versus a good product. That can prove to be a challenge.
Mm-hmm.
And the other thing is just don't overpromise and underdeliver. A lot of entrepreneurs just get so excited with their product that they overpromise, and then the product comes out and it doesn't meet the expectations.
Very interesting. So my next question, MR, is on scaling up. I've often been asked this question, that when should a startup start to scale up? Because people who put money start talking about expansion and growth, etc. What are your thoughts on scaling up?
Yeah, and again, Ashutosh, there are two things to consider here. One, are you a B2B company, so business to business kind of a product, or a business to consumer product? And each one has its own challenges, own timelines, and so forth. Yeah. So the B2B companies, I think ideally what you'd like to do is to have a core group of customers who are your quote unquote lighthouse or beta customers, whatever you want to call them. And you want to prove the fit to a handful of these companies, right? And then step 2 is a slightly larger pool of companies, right? So step A is 3 to 5, let's say, for business to business. Step B or plan B is then, maybe 10 plus customers. And then you got to assess, are you satisfying enough of the product map that you can show value to the customer and show benefit? At the same time, are you ready to scale, right? So you got to do at least two kind of iterations, a small group, maybe a slightly larger group. And then as you're doing these things, you are socializing the product with even a larger group, right? And if you see a lot of excitement in that group, hey, I'm ready. Okay. You got to get that larger group validation that says, I'm ready to go, right?
Okay.
So A, B, and then socialize as you're doing A and B. You get that excitement factor with customers, you're ready.
Very interesting. So one more question for startups before I move to the next segment. You mentioned that one of the primary reasons a lot of startups fail is because they haven't raised money. And yet, there is this constant dilemma on how long should I bootstrap my startup and when should I raise money? What is your advice on when should an entrepreneur look for money?
Yeah. So I didn't say the biggest reason for failure is a startup didn't raise enough money. I
Or
said
ran
a
out of
startup
money.
runs out of money,
Correct.
right? So again, so the thing with startups and raising money, it's always the dilemma of how much dilution I take as a founder versus how much capital I can raise. And you don't want to become a founder after a Series D where you have 2% of the company, okay? And investors have 98% of the company. So you want to be enough in the game where you go, okay, when there's an exit, a sale, or an acquisition or an IPO, you paid, you got paid enough for that, right? So that's always in a founder's mind, do you give up? But at the same time, if you have a smaller piece of a bigger pie, you still make more money at the end of the day, right? So this is constant trade-off between, what is the right amount of, stock I keep in the company when I exit versus, when you start. When you start, you're starting with 100%, right? So the question is, can you dilute as little as possible, but maximize the amount of cash coming in, right? And with each company and each founder, it's a different take because some founders may be greedier than others. Some founders may want to control the company more. So my advice to them is, look, a smaller piece of a bigger pie is always better than a bigger piece of a smaller pie.
Well said. Well said. So I'm going to move to a few questions for you personally. My first question to you is that, what an amazing innings you've had as a professional, as an investor, and doing so many other fun things. What would you say are three key milestones in your life or your career?
Yeah, I would say the first step was to work in a large, successful tech company like Oracle. I did at Oracle. That was great. I would say I also learned failure. I worked at, two different startups that failed and shut down, basically. So you really learn and you build your character more in that environment than in a successful company. So I've done both, and those were two milestones. One to say, hey, I'm not that great. I'm an average guy. Just because I was at Oracle and the company did well, I did well, doesn't mean you're going to be successful at a startup. So I learned that lesson as well. Humility is always good.
Sure.
And then the other thing was, my own goal was a milestone was I said at age 40, I've got to be independent, not retired, but independent to do my own stuff.
Correct.
And I failed in that. I achieved that at age 41. So that was another milestone.
Okay.
And really is, I think my second innings, if you want to call it, after my professional life, in my mind has been more gratifying because I've started 3 different networks or communities, one in the tech space of tech CEOs, another one around corporate eco related activities with 70 of the world's largest companies. And then, of course, Indiaspora, which is my nonprofit that I founded for the diaspora's leaders around the world. Amazing. So I think my second innings in my mind has been more gratifying. My first innings was good to make me independent, but my second innings has given me more fulfillment because I'm doing so many things for others and for impact as opposed to for dollars.
I'm going to keep a separate episode with you to discuss Indiaspora because I just find it so fascinating. But coming back to you, For someone who has been investing in so many companies, what are some of the core values you believe in?
Core values for myself.
Yeah.
I think for me, I'm totally aligned with the founder.
Mhm.
As an angel investor, I'm not looking for the exit or for the money. I want to be aligned with. So I always talk to the founder and say, "What's the price? When will you exit?"
Mhm.
Just ask a hypothetical question.
Mhm.
So you're staying aligned with the founder as opposed to all the other investors that come in who have other agendas. So once you get professional money like the venture capitalists, they have their own time frames, own agenda, own rate of return,
Mhm.
and you're beholden to that, right? So I'm aligned with the founder. That's one of my values, is aligned with the founder. The other thing is, since I don't have a venture fund, I'm maximizing the overall value. So if in 7 years I can make 10x, and in 10 years I can make 20x, I'd rather get the 20x.
Okay.
Whereas the venture funds and other investors, they have a lifetime of the
Mm.
fund and they want to exit, right? So I'm fine, if it took me 10 years and I made more. So staying the course,
Okay.
And even in my when I created all my networks, and we can talk another time, I give 10-year commitment to anything I do.
Okay.
So so look at the long game, that's the other value I have.
Very, very well said.
And so those are a couple of things.
Fabulous. And a follow-up question for that is, the last 25 years as an angel investor, achieved a lot. From where you stand today, what does success mean to MR?
I think success means for me is being able to pick more winners than losers.
Okay. Okay.
So it's not the money I made, but let's say I've invested in over 100 startups.
Mhm.
Either the more startups that exit and are successful, the better I feel. It's not the return itself,
Mhm.
because you've now spurred on an entrepreneur, right? Who's going to become himself an angel investor,
Mhm.
become a mentor for someone else, as opposed to if you failed, your next step is to try again, right?
Mm.
Whereas if you succeeded, you're going to give back.
Mm.
So I'm looking for the percentage of wins, as opposed to the money I made.
Amazing. And who or what inspires you to keep pushing yourself?
Uh, Gosh, very tough question. I think my whole take on life has been help others, and without looking for anything, any quid pro quo.
Mhm.
So help others, add value, don't expect anything in return, and maybe you get good karma in return. But the thing is, I always really am helpful. I connect people. Even if I don't invest in one of these startups, I give them feedback, free advice first.
Mhm.
The second thing is I do end up connecting them to potential other investors or customers, because if I see a fit, it's not like I have to invest in the company to help that person.
Mhm.
I can help them in any way I do. So that's some of my values that I
Very
carry along.
interesting. So I've got time for two more questions for you. My next question is on failure. And I've often said that parents in South Asia don't teach children it's okay to fail. We're always taught first in class, head of the line, etc., etc. And that manifests itself in our behavior patterns. Yet we fail. So my question to you, Emma, is what have been some of your learnings from some of your mistakes?
Yeah. So my learning goes back to the old British, or I think, sorry, not British, but Scottish tale of this king who failed,
Mhm.
and then Robert Bruce, I think, and the whole thing about him was try, try, try again.
Mhm.
And so I used it myself in my own career in tech. The first company I joined was a startup,
Mhm.
did 1 million in sales. Next year was like, I think, 2 million in sales. Next year was 8 million in sales. Great.
Mhm.
Next year was chapter 11.
Wow.
Okay. Then I tried another startup, same kind of thing, went to like 30 million, failed. The third time I got lucky in this
Mhm.
case, personally. So I think the main thing is try again. Don't give up after your first startup, but do it responsibly. Don't be someone who's 45 years old with 2 kids in college and you do a startup where you're taking your retirement savings and putting it into a startup. I wouldn't do that. But early on in life, you can try it 2 or 3 times.
Very interesting. And my last question to you, and this is for the thousands of people who will be listening to you, what would you advise a young entrepreneur who's starting off on her or his journey as a startup?
I would say the single biggest thing founders and early startup entrepreneurs fail to do is get a mentor.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of them are going through life at that phase. They don't know how to navigate life and they fail to get a mentor,
Mm-hmm.
not angel investors, not board members, but a personal mentor who can both be honest with them, guide them, but also use a carrot and a stick, and someone who cares for this person. And most young entrepreneurs, when I ask them, they don't have one. And that's one I would expect them to get.
Very, very well said. Get a mentor. MR, thank you so much. It's been such a pleasure speaking to you. I mean, I'm so amazed at your incredible journey, about all your successes, and yet how simple and modest you are in terms of your answers. Thank you again.
Thank you, Ashutosh.
Thank you for listening to the Brand Called You videocast and podcast, a platform that brings you knowledge, experience, and wisdom of hundreds of successful individuals from around the world. Do visit our website www.tbcy.in to watch and listen to the stories of many more individuals. You can also follow us on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Just search for the Brand Called You.